morning.
Morning.
Thank you for allowing us to come up and speak with you about a matter that has sort of been on the back burner for us, but is now the timing has come to go back and take another look at this project that we started about 3 years ago with some of the flooring in the facility, and it was approved to be done in a capital outlay in the 2018 budget. Excuse me, it was requested in 2018 and approved for the 2019 year. So the original agreement was that $63,728.88 would be set aside out of capital outlay for some floor improvements. Since that time, some of the other flooring in the same area has deteriorated further, so we've slightly changed our request to include another $12,495, of which $6,000 is for the new area, and then there's some other things that have increased over time. Just like buildings and gas, it goes up, and so our cost of the product has gone up, the wages for the employees have gone up, and some more shipping and handling fees. So what's unique about the flooring, and Lieutenant Evans can speak to this even probably more succinctly than myself, is that it's sort of one of a kind. It is long-lasting. It is an epoxy type floor. If you've had a chance to stop by the facility and take a look, you will see that the flooring is not only looks good, but it's made to last. It's made for easy cleanup. If you've seen some of the old flooring, you know sort of why we've gone down this path. So we're coming before you to ask for approval of not only to spend the original amount for the in the capital outlay, but that was approved, but to ask for a little bit more coverage areas to take care of some of those other areas that have tended to start to deteriorate. So many reasons that we want you to consider this, but first and foremost is the safety of the inmates and the employees and our customers that come in. The flooring is getting to the point where it's starting to get unsafe, and so we feel that we need to get moving on this, despite some of the possible changes that might be happening in the future for our buildings. We certainly think that this would be appropriate to take a look at this point. So.
Any questions?
Yes. Is this going to cause any disruptions in your facility while they're doing this?
Oh, absolutely. There will be some major, I don't want to say disruptions. I can see, because what really, it's sort of fascinating to watch them install it, because it's troweled on and then it has to dry. So we're talking about the whole front office area. The good news is the lobby area was previously done, so that we'll be able to work around some of those challenges that we're obviously going to have, and it is going to, is going to change, at least from the public and the visitors for the inmates. It will change some of their maybe some of their patterns. Certainly for the employees. Obviously you can't walk on that stuff until it's dried and prepared correctly, so yes, for sure.
A question for Lieutenant Evans. In your experience as jail administrator, is it dangerous if there are loose tiles around in the cells and in the hallways where the inmates are?
Absolutely. In one housing unit that we are getting taken care of, the tile, as in the previous project, has come off the floor, and it's an old, I don't know what they call a VCT, some type of tile, but it's gotten almost dry. I don't know, petrified over time. It's not flexible anymore. It's sharp. Those tiles have been being peeled up, and when we replace tiles currently on the concrete, they don't adhere anymore to it. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it's a huge sanitation issue. We can't clean that floor properly. So inside the facility, more so than outside the facility, the sanitation is huge. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they clean and live in there, and they can't leave. It's being used obviously 24 hours a day. So that would improve our ability to clean those areas properly and make sure they stay sanitary. But yes, definitely, the current flooring that's in the current housing unit could be used as a weapon, could be used, to harm someone if they chose to do that.
So, yeah, they could take the tiles and fashion them into some type of weapon. And the new strategy of the epoxy flooring, that eliminates all of
Yeah,
that
but
risk.
basically, the nice thing about this product, it encapsulates everything, so they don't have to tear anything up, it goes right over the top of it. And there's, it certainly provides for a smooth surface, easier to clean, obviously, and there's no, threat of them removing that up from the floor.
And it also, by the way, there are MDOC expectations for inspections that have to be met, and those were one of the concerns that we were discussing with them.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Timeline?
John? Sorry.
Sorry.
Wasn't
David,
looking that
for-
way. David was first. Thank you,
Yep.
David.
Timeline for installation and completion?
If it were approved, they can start December 2nd, I believe. We can get on their schedule to start, they're obviously busy. And then it would be probably a 2-month time period, end of January, beginning of February, and completion of the total project.
Probably a couple days that you can't use those.
Yeah, when they start on an area, it's probably close to 3 days before we can use it again. Once it's completely finished, hardened, and cured, it's 3 days. So they'll start in segments throughout the facility. It's obviously not a project they start at once. So we'll start and we'll determine what area is the best for them to start in, and they'll just work their way through.
Okay, and this customized cleaning services, I mean, they're the ones that have been on this project, you've used them in the past.
Yeah, the last project was installed by them. They are the sole source provider in the state of Michigan for this product. It's the only product that's available with a 10-year warranty on it. That's why we chose to go with it the first time. It's been exceptional. We haven't had any problems with it since installation in late 16, early 17. Easy to clean. They would obviously be the same installers as last time.
And it actually is the only company that we know of that offers a 10-year warranty on their work. I don't see that ever.
No, I mean,
Not with
it basically that limited our range of who could bid on it.
Okay, my only other question was, and this may be a question for Michael, I see that they wanted a 50% down payment. I mean, the county's obviously got AA credit, so is that something standard? with
Double A
this?
minus.
Right.
Okay.
That's
Did you say Ben?
Double A minus. That was for Michael.
Oh.
He'd want that.
I mean, obviously, we don't have their financials in there. These guys are financially stable, you've looked at their background that
right. And his reasoning for that when I asked him was that he has to be able to buy the product, and his supplier won't extend that far of credit. So for us to get locked into a date and time for him to keep his crew here and not send them to another job, that's what he would require for us to.
Michael, is that standard practice for the county to advance funds for projects not completed?
It's not uncommon. We will advance a portion of this. We've done business with this company. They have done work in this building as well. The bathroom on the first floor and then the second floor. So Tim has dealt with them and continues to do business.
Okay.
To go back to the timing question that Commissioner Gibson was asking about, so for the office area, if it's a 3-day dry, we're hoping that they could time it out so that they would be laying the floor down on a Friday, and then have Saturday and Sunday without business, as much business in
Yes.
there. We get business 24/7, 365, but at least we could kind of deal with that a little bit easier at the front counter, so.
I thought maybe you were giving everybody a weekend pass.
Well, technically we are, but,
Prisoners would get
unfortunately-
hungry, wouldn't they?
What's that?
Prisoners would be hungry by
Yes,
Monday, yeah.
they need a weekend pass too, and I'm not sure the residents would be up to that, so.
Got one more question.
Okay.
If you were at capacity, could you work around it without shipping anybody to another facility?
There's only one actually housing area. The other two are holding cells. This project could be doable at capacity. We're obviously it's not going to be easy, but I think the areas that we're requesting inside the facility are important to be done. So it's something that we're going to regardlessly have to figure out some way to do it if it isn't approved. I mean,
I'm sorry, John had the floor next.
I personally would like to see it come before us in two separate things, one for the inmates and then one for the office, because I'm hesitant to vote on $50,000 for the office floor that we might tear up in 2 years with a 10-year warranty on it, and that's my only thing on this. I think where we're dealing with the inmates in the inmate area, we have to fix it. But I'm not that sure about the office.
Thank
All I
you.
got to say.
I like being able to have the last word. Thank you. I had some concerns about the addition, especially because of what happened last week with the approval to go forward for the 2020 election for a millage. I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
Hadn't heard of things.
So we agreed on that timeline with Tower Picture, so, so that's my only concern. I mean, I get it, it's an old building, so, but I do have concerns about the cost. But the original, everything but the 12,494 or 495, everything has already been approved. It's just that last 12,500. So, is there any area that maybe you could use a lesser product that's
Well,
would,
I think
would
we can.
cut that a little bit?
Yeah, we can certainly look to hold off on the office area. That's a big area, and it probably would be significant. We could look here to see exactly what, that's, yeah, $7,700 for the office area. So we could cut a little back from the original, so.
39.60.
And even the squad room, we call it the squad room, we could maybe hold off on that for now. And that would cut off another $4,000, it looks like, so.
That's up to 11. So, okay. And are there any trip hazards or anything in those two areas?
But the carpet hasn't completely worn through.
Okay.
But it's not the greatest in appearance. I mean, it's more aesthetic than anything, but it's useful. It's useful.
Well, before we go any further, I would like to entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval for the bid for application of epoxy flooring in specific locations at the Sheriff's Office from Customized Cleaning Services in the amount of $76,223 with funds to be paid from the Building Rehabilitation Fund.
So moved.
Support.
Now, is there any other discussion?
I would just add, echoing John's question, that if you could look at that project, obviously take care of the safety issues and the inspection issues that need to be taken care of. But if you can look at that and potentially hold off on doing things that maybe are not as urgent or as impactful, that I think, like I said, with millage coming up in 2020, to look at some of that, I think that would be awesome on your guys' part to be judicious with that spending.
Well, would we like to, would it be acceptable to come back at a later time without, or can we take care of removing items from that?
Would you like to remove those items?
Well, I think that would be a fair and equitable solution.
Can I get an amendment from anyone? To reduce the, you got the math right there? To reduce the price by $11,000?
If there's a consensus, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
if there's a consensus from the board that that's the direction we'd like to go, I think we can come back past this today and allow them to come back next week with an amended
Okay.
proposal.
That sounds
That
good.
sounds good. That way they'd have the figures right in front of them and can study them a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. It's the inmate
concern
sensitive
the
area.
concern that I have is that they may lose a date if we,
Oh, well, it's already going
if we get
next
bids
week.
for other people and stuff, that date may have to go to the next
Don't
year
think
then.
we're going out for
I don't
bids.
think
Yeah, we're
gonna
not
get
going
more
out for
bids.
bid. We're just asking them to not do two areas.
Well,
No, I know for this, but what your suggestion earlier, can we find a lesser product is what
Oh,
I'm saying.
no,
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
Right.
We've crunched the numbers. Lieutenant Nevins is great with a calculator. So, he is-
So, item H, H1, H2, and I, which will be the main floor office, squad room, and sergeant's office inside the squad room, sergeant's office outside of squad room, and basement hallway, which that's a grand total of $15,660. That would be removed from this project.
But did you subtract it from
I have not yet.
the motion amount of 76?
Tax exempt.
What about the security garage?
That isn't, unfortunately, that's an important piece of it. That is, probably that area is probably in the worst shape. That water leaks through the floor down into the boiler room. There's a drain and there's several cracks. This will fill those cracks and basically resurface around the drain. A lot of cars obviously coming out of there, sit there, water, salt, snow, slush, deteriorate that floor in there. So this will
Okay.
secure that floor up and make it, one, less tripping hazard, and two, easier for us to clean.
So with your calculator, did you get a new amount of $60,563?
That's exactly what we came up with, so.
So, okay, so do you want us to amend our motion today, or
Yes,
do you want
I
to
would
just
request that the motion be amended to that amount, so.
need something from the
If
board?
there's no objection from the committee, then it can be amended without a vote.
Okay, thank you, Ben. So this is going to be a roll call. So I'll read the I'll read it again. To recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the bid for application of epoxy flooring in specific locations at the Sheriff's Office from Customized Cleaning Services in the amount of $60,563 with funds to be paid from the Building Rehabilitation Fund. A roll call vote, please.
Geiger,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Smelter,
Yes.
Wink, absent.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for working with us on that.
Thank you.
Pam Palmer, Clerk Palmer is our next speaker, our next presenter. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm used to being behind the scenes, not in front of you. I'm here today to ask for approval to hire a part-time temporary person for up to 10 hours per week with funds to be paid from the Concealed Pistol Licensing Fund, which the handout that I gave you is spells out the Concealed Pistol Licensing Fund requirements that go into a special account to be used specifically for staffing requirements attributable to CPL Act, technology upgrades, office supplies, or document storage and retrieval systems and system upgrades. I'm also asking that the 2019/2020 budget line item for that be increased to $3,000, which would cover the staff person. And also to approve amending the 2019-2020 budget to include a CPL training line item with funds to be paid from the CPL fund in the amount of $3,000. An example for that is I recently went to my MAC conference in Escanaba, and we had a CPL speaker there, and they specifically have a CPL speaker come and give us updates at every one of our conferences so that we can charge our expense to attend that conference back to the CPL fund. So I would like to create a line item so that I can charge that conference and any other training that comes up for my staff or myself to that line item. Any questions for me?
Is this a forever thing or just a temporary?
I don't see the numbers going down. Our CPL licenses, new and renewals, keep continually going up and up. We process approximately, I brought Holly up here. She's my CPL and vital record clerk. She tells me, and you can confirm this, that you can come up here if you want. We do approximately 150 to 160 new and renewals a month. We send out between probably about 150 to 160 letters per month, reminding them that their CPL is going to expire, or we send out letters with their new cards when they've come in and applied, have been approved, or we send out letters that they have not been approved. So typically, this person would probably average more like around 8 hours a week, depending on what the need is.
You said 8 hours a week
Probably more like 8 hours a week.
for 3 months?
Nothing would come from the general fund from the county. This is all supported by the CPL fund.
Ben?
So, thank you for being here, and thank you, Holly, for everything you do. You do a great job down there. This proposal mainly addresses the correspondence side of the CPL? That's what it,
Holly, because this person does not have a printer or anything, is not able to connect to the printer, so Holly pretty much prints out the letters or the photos, cards, and then this person can stuff envelopes. We also have to copy all of our CPL applications, which we go through a lot, given the number that we do process per month. She would be in charge of making sure that we have enough forms ahead of time. We also have to scan, which this person doesn't have a desk or a scanner. Holly would be doing that, but then they also have to be filed in the back. We keep a hard copy of each one that comes in and applies.
sounds good. I think a few years ago, MLive covered the Berry County Clerk's Office for how fast and efficient we were with CPL licenses.
We do have a good turnaround time. Typically, when someone comes in and applies, if their background is clean, they can have their card back in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, and sometimes it's way earlier than
Way
a
early.
week.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have approval back and they're still in the parking lot, but we have to mail it to them.
Right.
Because of,
Right. Well, we want to keep that trend going.
thank you.
Anyone else? David?
Are you gonna cover that position with current staff, or are you gonna try to bring a part-timer in for that?
I would bring a part-timer in. My current staff is maxed out with all of the court duties and other things that we have.
And it can
Going-
take approximately 5 hours a week just to print and process the ones that we have for the week. And for me, doing the jury and everything else, it can be a little time consuming, but like you said, we'd like to keep that turnaround time that we have.
Thank you.
Okay, so I see first of all, oops, covering up my cheat sheet. So at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to hire a part-time temporary person for up to 10 hours per week with funds to be paid from the Concealed Pistol Licensing Fund, and approval to increase the 2019 budget for line item 264-000-705-000. temporary salaries to $3,000 and to add line item 957-000, employee training to the 2019 CPL fund budget with a budget of $3,000.
So moved.
Second.
That, was that you, John?
Both of us, yeah.
So I have so Pam, you mentioned 3 line items. Did you want to create another line item for your,
I believe it's
It's already there?
It's the second one.
okay, all right. I wasn't sure if you were talking about another one, so I just wanted to make sure.
Since I'm here and since you brought it up, I really should have included a line item for equipment as well. So it, you know, it looks on my budget form, I don't know if I brought it or not. At some point, I'm gonna have, this is my budget for my CPL, 2 lines.
Okay,
Office supplies and postage. So I'm wanting a line item for a temporary staff wages, and then also a line item for training / travel. And I really should have included in this proposal a line item for equipment, because I'm gonna be back here, hopefully not soon, but our printer that prints out our CPL cards is about 7 years old. We've been having problems with it. We've had a tech out. We think we've got it happy again. It was printing purple faces and all kinds of
Had a
different.
rainbow.
A rainbow effect. So I probably should have included that, but I can bring that back at another time if you'd like.
sorry. I'm gonna try to get Michael's attention here. He's right behind the pillar. Would you recommend her coming back with that, or?
Yeah, is this the printer we talked,
No.
just the printer?
This is the printer that prints the CPL cards.
It prints CPLs and employee IDs,
Right, and the IDs.
county IDs.
Not knowing
I could,
Okay,
I would suggest that.
bring it back a separate item?
I can bring it back.
Get the, depending on the cost.
Okay.
We'll figure that out. and
All right.
bring that back.
Okay. Just trying to be efficient here, but, so, anything else for minute 10? I'm sorry.
Maybe I don't understand this. The salaries, the temporary salaries are for the person that works 10 hours per week,
Up to 10 hours per week, yes.
and it's only $3,000?
That's gonna more than cover it, yeah.
Oh, 3,000 will cover it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But the math didn't work out for me in my head, so, but if we're doing 3,000, that's fine.
Anybody else? Want to give Ben a chance to sit back down? Anybody else? So, we're gonna have to do a roll call vote on this. Yes? And you're up there.
Just 1 second.
Make you do double duty.
That's okay. Are you ready for a roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Gibson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Smelker,
Yes.
Wing absent. Geiger,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes. Motion passes.
thank you.
Welcome. Brown, thank you.
It's 5,200 a year. That covers it.
Anytime?
All set? Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't know if there was going to be a motion first. So this is the first item that I have, thank you, Madam Chair, is Budget Amendment 19B. We're a little more than midway, almost 3/4 of the way through the year, and have an opportunity now to take a pretty good look at where the budget is. We get into this time of year where we're able to more closely determine the property tax revenue for the general fund, as well as on the expenditure side, focus in a little more closely on salaries and fringe benefits, which you'll notice as you look through this are a significant driver of the particular fringe benefits of the amendment. It is in the standard form that you're used to seeing. The first page is just a summary and indicates that both the revenues and the expenditures for the general fund go up by $190,387. That brings the proposed budget for 2019, or the proposed amended budget to $17,292,334. Pages 2, and I'm on the, when I reference page numbers, I'm not referencing, I apologize, the PDF page numbers. I'm referencing the bottom of that are written on the document itself. Sometimes that can get confusing. So pages 2 through 5 of the amendment are the revenues for the general fund. I'll hit a couple of highlights, and certainly at the end you can ask, or if you want to stop me, feel free. I indicated that this amendment increases the revenues, both revenues and expenditures, by $190,387. The property tax adjustment alone, the revenue estimate, is an increase of $238,000. So the single largest driver on the revenue side is a much closer estimate of the property taxes that we will collect at this point in the year. And then there are others that are adjustments, if you may, to the to revenues. Probably on the negative side, so adjustments that do not have parentheses are positive. In this case, revenues would adjust the revenue up. If it has a parenthesis, it's a negative, adjust the revenue down. The single largest driver on those that adjust revenues down would also be located on page 2, and that's under dog licenses. We have planned to try to work in a census for a couple years now, and with everything that's going on, have not been able to do that yet. We will adjust, or have proposed adjusting that revenue down accordingly, and talking to Chairman Connor today, Vice Chairman Connor, that we do intend to focus on that in 2020. Still keep that on the radar. It is something that needs to be accomplished. There's revenue that's not being collected, but maybe more importantly, animals that aren't being licensed, and that just is a reflection of, as we've seen over history, that when we do a census, we are able to capture, if you may, all of the census that's out there, get animals licensed, and then things start to tail off as you don't do a census. So on the expenditure side of the ledger, if you may, which brings us to pages 6 and 7 for the general fund. Again, I indicate that revenue or expenditures also go up by $190,387. There are a number of areas that have seen adjustments. Detail for those adjustments are located on pages 8 through 10. They are primarily related to benefit changes. Retirement's a big driver as we adjust what we need to remit, if you may, to MERS for our retirement costs. And I say we, because I serve on that board, have adjusted the, interest assumption, have adjusted that down. Certainly a good thing over the long term and necessary, but it does have the unintended result of increasing costs that we pay in, at least over the short term. I indicated to Vice Chairman Connor this morning as we were talking, the short term is probably in this context a 10-year time cycle. Pensions are a long-term look, so we will see, and I foreshadowed that, I think, in one of my previous communications. I don't remember if it was the budget or a year-end report, but that we will see pension costs going up. I anticipate over that shorter term. Over the long term, the hybrid that we've put in place clearly is having the impact that we hoped it would have, and that's reducing the costs associated with pension and also stabilizing it. But in the short term, we have that existing DB plan, those employees that were prior to 2012, which is the timeline that the hybrid went into place, that will have a bit more impactful cost structure. So we also, keeping with retirement on page 7, we have added to the retirement fund appropriation the $500,000 that we contribute to pay down the unfunded accrued liability. We've also added another $70,368. This is to pay for the annual contribution associated with 2 closed divisions. One is associated with jail administrator, we no longer use, and the other is mental health. When we went to an authority, mental health took on the liability of their employees from that period on. We have the tailing, if you may, of the liability that was associated prior to becoming an authority. Those divisions are closed to new hires, but they still do have some contribution requirements, and that is to meet that need. And then maybe one of the areas that is of interest to the board is top of page 7 under contingency. It reduces the contingency from just shy of 122,000 down to 82,000. Still, if you may, a healthy amount at this point in the year, but it does require the use of some contingency. Again, pages 8 through 10 are detail of the expenditures, and then 11 through 13 and then 14 on are detailed are adjustments to all budgeted funds, special revenue funds, debt service, and the like. And that's laid out if you look at page 11. The fund is on the left. The existing budget 2019 of revenues and expenses are in the middle with a projected balance based on that. And then the far right shows you the most current proposed amendment with what would be a projected balance. Far right. You have one fund at the bottom of page 11, the Crime Victims' Rights Week grant, that you'll notice currently shows that it would end a deficit. We can't allow that to occur. So $1,407 will work with that department to adjust the budget accordingly. I'm not concerned that they will end up in a deficit. They never have. It just is that the budget right now is out of balance. So we'll work with that agency to get about budget that does result in a year-end balance of 0 or positive. I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Okay, before that, we should probably on this have a motion first. So the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of Budget Amendment 19B.
Or,
Okay, thank you. Okay, who's got questions? No one?
I'd just make a final comment, just as a overall arch, there's nothing that concerns me at this point. I think that we're on a path that looks as though it will be consistent with previous years. Any revenues and or expenditures that are concerning, any funds that appear to be, whether it be fund balances being dangerously low or the like, I think we'll probably see departments spending consistent with what they have done in the past, allowing for some unused funds to be redistributed, if you may, back to vehicle, data processing, building, or capital, depending on how we decide to do that at the end of the year. So it appears that things seem to be shaping up for this year all right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are we using MSU anymore at all with their, we went to them before when we were going through the harder times.
Yeah.
Are we using them at all? Should we be asking them again or don't you think we need to do that?
I don't think we need to do that at this time. That was a really specific and detailed look at kind of a unique situation when property values started to decline. We knew that there would be some lag, if you may, and that lag was about 2 years because of the assessing, the nature of assessing and how it gets put against your value and then us levying taxes against that. Why we went to MSU is that, and not, without getting too detailed or into the weeds, we also knew that we had a taxable value, an assessed value that was higher than our taxable value. What I didn't know is how many of the properties and at what level. So we needed somebody that had the ability to look on a parcel basis at that differential gap to figure out how quickly those assessed values would hit taxable, because it's not until they hit the taxable and the taxable goes down that we knew that we would be affected with revenue losses. So we needed somebody to really be able to do some detailed look there. On the plus, now that property values are going up as well as I don't think it's necessary. We haven't used that report now for a year or two. It phased itself out. It really did what we needed it to do, and was allow us to build a roadmap with some certainty to budget for that single largest piece of revenue that we have, our property taxes, and not have to budget based on fear or complete unknowns. So to your question, I don't think we need two things. We aren't using it at this point. It served its purpose, and two, I don't think we don't really have a question at this point that we would ask MSU. But I appreciate that, because we may at some point. I hope we don't.
Yeah.
But it was to me, it was hugely valuable. I think it got us through those times without having to succumb to
We had a reason.
panic, if you may.
We had a reason to do what we did. And that was important.
Anyone else? Well, the motion before the board is, covered up my to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of Budget Amendment 19B. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So we don't have very many things left. Does anybody need a break? So let's go on. Proposed, the 2020-2022 budget review. Let's make a motion first. So right now I would entertain a motion to. I guess
We
I
really don't
Don't
need-
have one.
We don't, this,
Nope.
thank you, my apologies, I should have caught that right off the
Sorry.
get-go.
And I knew that. I too.
Yeah, this is just informational. It's a presentation, if you may. You received it electronically, and just a real high level to acknowledge, if you haven't seen it, that the 2020 budget recommendation, or at least initial draft, has been put together. Again, without going through it page by page, you have the standard format that we have used, so it should be familiar. Starts with a transmittal talking about just kind of a high-level written overview, and then provides the resolution that you will, at the end of October, October 22nd is the date of the fourth Tuesday of the month, so at which time ideally you would hold a public hearing, and if the public hearing doesn't generate any input that changes your position otherwise, you would then adopt the budget at that point. The budget is balanced for the year, and again, very similar to what you will have seen in the past. We fund recurring services and staffing, so it looks very closely at what have we been doing, and make sure that those things that we have been doing and those services and people that we provide and employ and the benefits are budgeted for. I've pulled out all new requests for staffing. Those you'll find on pages, again, not PDF page, but of the document, page 21, and individually identified those. They are also in more detail located on pages 23 and 24. None of those positions are recommended this year, not because they're certainly not warranted. There's a lot of need. There's certainly a lot of support, if you may, by departments for those in positions, but just not the funding that's available at this point. The budget is projected at 17 million, just shy of 17,850,000 for this year, and then contingency is recommended at $141,700. So not quite a percent. I think it's maybe closer to 0.75% of the budget, but there is some contingency that's been worked into the budget. We have budgeted for all funds. Public law requires that we budget for the general fund and special revenue funds. We have provided budgets for all of the funds, including debt service, in the case that we have any, and I don't think we have any this year, construction, special or internal service, and then I'm missing one, but I don't know what it is right off the top. My apology. But we have budgeted for all of our all funds, as we have done in the past. Don't necessarily expect any questions at this time. Unless you do, I think the items that the board needs to be focused on is one, taking a look at the document, making sure you're familiar, and then thinking about between now and when we adopt the budget, holding a workshop as well as, and maybe in the correct order, conducting departmental appeals, asking departments. I think that's a hugely important part of the process. I try to take into account all the information that I have available, but I do have, I do think it's important that departments have the opportunity to come directly to you, and if they disagree with something or think you should hear something that I haven't said, have that opportunity to say that, so that's to you, and get that dialogue, make sure that dialogue occurs.
You all have your calendars open? I noticed we forgot to turn the paper ones up.
Oh, we did that last.
So traditionally, we have these after either a cow or a board. And traditionally, our cows run longer than our board meetings do, because I think there's a lot more discussion. So would you like the budget hearings scheduled after, I think next week's board is too soon for departments to get their appeals ready, but maybe the 24th, which would be after the board meeting on September 24th. Is that early enough?
Yeah, if you did the 24th, and then we would look to maybe the committee of the whole, October 1 to do a workshop, and,
I'll be on vacation.
okay,
You,
that's right, is it
Yeah,
you had told
when
me,
are you leaving, Dan?
I'll be leaving on well, I'll miss the 24th, and I will miss the 1st.
And we will miss you.
Yes, I'm sure you will.
That was Ben that said that.
I saw. You won't
Well,
miss me, will you, John?
Yes, I will, Dan.
That's 2 in a row. That's fine. I want you to have a good time. So maybe we should move the budget and appeal process up to the 17th then after the cow, because Dan will be here for that day.
That'd be very nice of you.
I mean,
I think that's a little quick.
that's 2 weeks. Because otherwise, he wouldn't be here until October. Oh, shoot, my computer timed out. Otherwise, because the October the 22nd, because he'll be gone, you said the 1st? So that would be,
24th and the 1st, yeah.
so that'd be the 8th and the 15th of October with the, if we had the budget appeals on the 8th and the workshop on the 15th, then that would be on the 22nd is the day we would approve the budget. Is that a little cramped, isn't it, Michael?
yeah, because we'd need to advertise.
All right, well, 17th, I guess.
We'll do the challenge we'll have with the 17th is that we've just about a week for folks to get information to us, because we then
Well-
on the 11th need to, but we can certainly get that out, and
Well, it doesn't have to be on a Tuesday, I guess. I mean, I'm asking the board what you have available. I mean, I suppose if we did
It's easier to do it the same day that
I know.
everybody's in town.
I know. So I guess I'm asking you folks what you want to do. I'd like Dan to be included, but. Anybody?
Michael, what's your preference?
Yeah.
You're the one that has to handle all of them before
Oh,
they come to
yeah.
us.
yeah, the 24th and 1st are good days, but again, I recognize that doesn't work for Dan. I would probably be inclined to try to get something together on the 17th, and do our best, see what we can get together, and then if we have difficulty with departments, getting everybody, we maybe look to the 24th. Dan will at least have gotten the majority of it. I don't know what kind of,
I've got a phone.
17th, you're gonna still be here?
Yeah, I'll be here on the 17th, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, the 17th and the 24th?
Yeah.
After it would be after the cow and after the Board of Commissioners meeting for the budget workshop?
Let's see what we can,
Long day. I can tell you right now, a couple of things that I have issues with in this budget is the capital outlay for the jail. Specifically, the parking lot replacement. I think this board said today that we want to look at that. Two, skilled trade investment. I think we need to look at what we've done the last few years, which I think Commissioner Smelker led on, making investments into young people that want to have careers in the trades. Good organizations here that could benefit from that. So,
Oh, because those are public notices, when will you have them start? Can you put immediately following, or you just want to pick like 10:30 or 11 o'clock on the notices?
we will just include, so on the 17th, we'll just have the,
Right within the meeting?
yeah,
Okay. It'll be on the agenda then, okay,
correct.
thank you.
We don't have to vote on this, right?
nope.
Making notes. I'm all set.
Okay.
Unless you,
Okay?
thank you very much.
I was just waiting for you to get your stuff together to go into public comment. So again, public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes. I'll try to watch that closer, John. Not because it's you, Bob.
I was gonna say, wow.
Let's see how he starts it.
Okay.
Vanderbilt, Hastings Township. I'd like to express my support for this blue zone concept and the fact that we've got a private nonprofit entity, an LLC, that has raised over $1 million to support the start of this thing. But I also would like to make the comment that I think should be brought to the surface, that you folks were hammered mighty heavily on the initial public comment section, that it sounded to me by the comments that I heard that if you folks didn't allow this entity, this private entity, a government office space, that it was on your shoulders that this thing was going to pass or fail. And it may not have been the intention of the public comment folks to express that, but that's the way I took it. And I just think it ought to be brought up that they are an LLC, they're a private entity, and we're providing a government building for their office space. And not only the office space, but a conference room. And I just hope we haven't opened a can of worms here, that if another private entity comes along with the same amount of passion that this group came with, that now we're going to be in a position where, well, you know, we did this for one, folks, and just, that's my own opinion, and I just thought it ought to be brought to the surface. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Anyone else? Public comment? Well, with no other public comment, if there is any other business to come before the committee,
For commissioners, I did have a request from somebody to have pictures of the commissioners on our pages, or on our BOC page. I did have a photo of Dan and of myself, so if whatever you would like online, just send it to me and we'll upload it.
Okay? Rest of us hear that? Okay? So, anything else? So, there being no further business and without objection, the committee is adjourned.
Good job, Vivian.